welcome back to CCC 2020. This is going to be game 2 following game 1, which is between Team Pason and Team Emerson Automation. So we are now jumping into game 2 with Team Shareworks by Morgan Stanley versus Pason. Team Pason will be red side this game, and Team Shareworks, or Team Shareworks by Morgan Stanley, which I will abbreviate to Shareworks, is going to be taking the blue side. Now we are now waiting for the officials to give the go-ahead for both teams to start, and we will once again be heading into pick and bans. So now we're just checking with the CCC officials, and it seems like they have been given the all clear, so the game should be starting any second now. And we will be jumping into game 2. Once the ready checks have complete, oh, never mind. The ready checks are not complete. We will be waiting ahead. But once all 10 players give the ready signal, we will go ahead and begin game 2 between Pason and Shareworks. Now, game 1, we will just talk about the first game while we are waiting for the game to start. We do see Team Pason coming out ahead to a fantastically quick victory here against Team Emerson. It was a spectacular performance here by Team Pason. Now, this isn't like an elimination bracket or anything. These games are set. You will play them regardless of whether or not you won or lose the previous games. It is just going to be a score tally at the end. So things like 3 wins, 0 losses, or 0 wins, 3 losses, or something like that. So this is not to say that both teams here are the victors or the losers of the last game. They are completely separate games. There's no bracket as far as I'm aware of. So this is just going to be a game 2. I am unaware if Team Shareworks won or lost their last game. Aside from, mental fatigue as the day drags on, that really shouldn't matter here. Every game here is very much a blank slate. There are new opponents, new pieces of research to do for both sides involved. And it's just very much a clean game from, like a clean start between each game. So for game 2 here, once again, we are going to have players from a huge range of skill level. Some are unranked, some are silver, bronze, gold, even up to diamond. There are just a huge assortment of players. And as the bracket continues, as this event continues, there will be additional games. Oh, seems like there's been some rearrangement. They are going to move one player to, I think, team captain. They're actually changing their orders here. This is to, I believe, to set their pick order. Since there is no defined role in normal competition, you will have... Oh, never mind. They are putting their team captain up front. And they are actually putting their AD carry last pick again. We saw this from Pason in game 1, where they put their bottom lane as last picks. Pick order does matter tangentially for tournaments like this, and for a tournament like this, there is no set rules that players must be organized in terms of their positions. Although it seems like so far they are doing that. That they have organized themselves into their roles, it seems. Yeah, that's gonna be jungler. That's actually gonna be top lane, jungler, mid lane, AD carry. Oh my goodness, they're actually reorganizing themselves. That's cute. Unless CCC actually said, oh no, you have to do that. I can't imagine that was the rule though. And it seems like right now Pason is shuffled into place. I'm not sure if the same is true for Team Shareworks. And actually, this is kind of doing me a favor. Now I don't have to rearrange the scoreboard when I get in the game. So we're still waiting for the top 10 players to give the ready checks. And we'll be heading into the second game shortly. Just like last game, we'll have visibility into their pick and bans, which is new for me. I usually am put in a position for casting where I am not allowed to see their pick and ban. So in terms of casting that, I am certainly not an expert in it. Although I have done my share of drafts in my career with League of Legends, so I'm sure I can give at least some commentary on it. But seeing pick and ban come in place is a little bit refreshing. It is something I wish that as a spectator I could have seen for example, Clash tournaments, whenever Clash games are going on. A lot of times it's just guessing what the pick and bans were like, what phase each pick was given. Because in higher levels of play, you do have to take into account drafting order, counter picks in lane, counter picks, laning power, and all that sort of thing. There's a phenomenon called losing in draft, where you did your pick and ban so horribly that the game is just immediately lost. And that is a thing, like that can happen. And in a CCC tournament where the players' skill levels are, at least right now, so widely split, such a concept might not matter. But in other tournaments with actual MMR being taken into account, such as even flex draft, there is such a thing as just losing pick and ban, and usually that is the game losing blunder before you can even begin to play the game, which is a really interesting concept. You know, pro teams hire coaches with massive payrolls just to get it right, with varying results, of course. Some of the best drafters are some of the most sought after support staff you can hire in the esports community here. And there it is, the ready check has come in, the GLHF has gone out, and we are heading into pick and ban for game 2. Team Pason will take the red side, and Team Shareworks will take the blue. Now, it's worth noting that for the team picking on red side, they will be given the very last pick. That is going to be your final answer to whatever game plan that blue team has drafted. But to counter that, blue team does get the first pick. So the first ban is going to be Vygar, trying to pinch a mid pool here. And what is Pason's response ban? They are going to go ahead and ban out the Tryndamere, such a potent split pushing threat in the top lane. Now it is up to Shareworks to respond, and oh wait, hold on, I should move this below the pick and ban so they don't get in the way of all the champion icons up here. Lee Sin, the second takeaway here, going to take away a jungle pick so far. No bot lane bans. That's gonna be a Volibear. Yet another top laner or jungler, could work as both. And the third ban here from Team Team Shareworks. Excuse me, I am so sorry. Excuse me. Team Shareworks is going to be, let's see, 5 seconds left to ban. It is possible to miss a ban by running out the timer. Just by being indecisive and all that. And the third ban is going to be the Nivea. Once again, taking out a mid lane pick. So far, it's going to be 2 mid bans here for Team Shareworks, as well as a jungler ban. And what is Pason's response? They have banned essentially 2 top laners so far. Will they continue to pitch the top lane pool, or will they move to ban something else? And their answer is going to be yet another top laner or support. Pantheon support works as well. Now, blue team, they are going to go ahead. Shareworks is going to get the first pick onto the table. And it is going to be, drumroll please, Nautilus. So that is going to be a support pick. Picking their bot lane first, and of course Pason defaulting to their first priority, the Sion top lane. But of course this is the first rotation, so while Shareworks gets to pick 1 champion, Pason will get to pick 2. So with the Sion lock-in, their next pick is going to be probably a jungle or mid pick. Pason has shown that they like to obscure the AD carry. Oh, never mind. It's gonna be the Ezreal lock-in. Definitely a comfort pick. And Ezreal right now in the meta, one of the most powerful AD carries that are in the game right now. So that is certainly something that will make sense to be so highly prioritized. And Shareworks is gonna immediately respond with the Ashe AD carry pick into the Ezreal as well as the Elise. Now Ashe does have an appreciable amount of laning power. She does increase attack damage against champions she's slow, and in lane that is very easy to get off. She is very sticky when she gets to you because she can just constantly slow you and you cannot get away from her. Her volley is also a very long range ability in lane. It's used for a lot of situations, not just for zoning or farming at range. It can just unleash a ton of pain very early on, so that is something to watch out for sure. It is certainly not the best answer you could produce in Ezreal, but it is a viable answer nonetheless. Ashe's biggest problem has always been she will not output as much damage as other AD carries in the late game. She is picked for her utility more than her damage, and to supplement an Ashe composition, you do want to pick more damage in your solo lanes to complement that, and so far, Shareworks has yet to reveal their top or middle pick. You can see Pason here, they are responding by removing the Fizz. That does make sense here. If the mid lane gets Fizz, that is going to be a high damage nuker that could supplement the Ashe pick. And it is going to be up to Shareworks to drop their last ban. And their last ban is going to be given to the Wukong, an extremely potent top laner. However, I am puzzled why they will ban that, considering Pason has already revealed their top laner. It is Sion top lane with Galio mid. So it doesn't make sense to me that Shareworks would go ahead and ban another top laner when their top laner has already picked what they're going to be playing. But regardless, we are going to be heading into the second round of picks, and it is going to be a Graves jungler, such a potent high damage jungler that has a very safe clear in the jungle because the shotgun does provide minor knockback onto jungle camps, allowing him to clear most jungle camps with impunity. And now it is up to Shareworks. They have to respond with enough damage to supplement this Ashe pick. At least it's a good start. It is definitely very good early game damage. Thresh to provide the lockdown in the support pool. So wait a minute, that is not a Nautilus support. It's a Nautilus top lane. And it's going to be followed up by a Gragas mid. So Gragas mid does definitely provide a ton of damage. It is very much burst as opposed to sustained DPS. So I do fear Shareworks might run into a problem of not enough sustained DPS come the game. And here comes Pason's final pick in the support position. It's Braum, Janna, Braum. Braum will be the final pick for Pason, and now both teams are gearing up for Game 2, 1 minute out from the start of the game. So we do see here for Pason, they do ban out so many solo laners. Tryndamere, Volibear, Pantheon, Urgot, all of those are top laners, and they spent 4 out of their 5 bans to pinch that top pool. But it might not have mattered, because with the Thresh pick coming out as the support, I think they just realized that the Nautilus is their top laner all this time. It is very interesting, because Nautilus is not the champions that you typically see being run top lane, or even Gragas or Thresh for that matter. Honestly, any of those could be the top laner by this point. But none of those are necessarily champions you want to see in the top lane a lot. They're decently low damage, their tankiness doesn't shine early on, in a 1v1 situation that is. And the CC they provide on the one target isn't enough damage for themselves to be considered a standalone threat, which is why these champions have kind of fallen out of favor in top lane, because they just fall into the problem of quite simply not providing enough to justify a solo presence. So I am very intrigued what Shareworks is going to put in the top lane as their top laner. The game has already started, but for the sake of game integrity, spectators will be given an imposed 3-minute delay, so they are unable to feed live game information to either team. So while we wait out the spectator delay, we're just going to go ahead and discuss this draft a little bit more as we get into game 2. Just based on skill level alone, I do favor red team here in this matchup. They do have players playing at higher elos. But in team games like this, players' skill does matter, and to some extent, it does matter a lot more than one would admit. But ultimately, this is still a team game. Any individual player can very easily be shut down by a coordinated team. So it is really up to both teams to have clear communication, to know their game plan, and really the most important thing in a team game like this is to know your win condition, to know what you have to do to take the victory, what your team, what your champions that you're playing need to do to win, and just play around that. Have a very clear, make a very clear table in your mind. There's like a to-do column and the to-not-to-do column. And under the to-do column is everything that the team you drafted thrives in, and you want to do that. You want to force your opponents to play the game that their team isn't drafted to do. And you want to avoid playing into the enemy team's hands. Now, the game plan can always get thrown out the window if the communication goes poorly, or if the game just goes off to a horrible start and everything goes sour and everyone's exploding. But if it's the converse and the game does set out to be an even pace, it is going to be up to which team has superior coordination, which team understands what their win condition is more. A lot of this does come from coordinated practice, where you know your teammates' strengths and weaknesses, you know their play styles, you know how to play around each other, and that's how you get a cohesive unit that can do a lot of things together. So I'm sure both teams coming into this tournament have had at least a little bit of practice with each other, so we are going to be seeing a more coordinated game here, which is something I'm very excited to cast. I typically cast a lot of solo and dual queue, where a lot of it is just raw skill overpowering each other. And while that can be fun, it does oftentimes miss a strategical element, because when you're just meeting strangers online, you don't really have the time to build the rapport, to build the understanding of what each other's playstyles are. And it's not something that can be easily summarized either. It's only by spending a lot of time with your teammates can you truly come to understand how they will each play individually. So we're going to be getting in-game now as Game 2 begins. It is going to in fact be a Nautilus top. I am so intrigued at what this pick can put out. I'm going to be, as a top laner myself, I'm going to be looking at this lane with great interest as the game goes on. So let's get into the game. Interestingly, the Thresh player does have Unseal Spellbook. It's a very powerful keystone in the hands of the right player. And to me personally, I've always had a personal bias that people who have Spellbook clearly know what they're doing. It obviously is a little bit of a stereotype on my end. It is, but from my perspective, it's often sacrificing what is essentially a combat keystone for utility. And when you do that, it typically communicates that you understand that champion very well, and you can make use of that utility. So now it is up to Team Pason. They're going to start the game by paying out a brush, and they're grouping all 5 members. They're definitely a very uncommon move. They are going to be poised for an early game invade, but there it is, a very early ward placed here in the river brush. So now Team Shareworks, they're going to be alerted to anything that Team Pason might try. Are they still going to go ahead? Yes, they are. They're going to walk over a ward. The pings are coming down immediately. They spot this out. They know that Pason's coming in. Oh, but if they walk out into the tri-brush. Ooh, Shareworks, you gotta move. You can't be there. If they collapse out, you're dead. The Gragas is on the side. He sees them coming in. He's gonna ditch. Oh, the ward gets planted. They spot him out. They ping out the Gragas. They do know he's there. It seems like Shareworks, they're still setting up an ambush, but that ambush trap will never be sprung as Team Pason exits out from the way they came in. And now Shareworks, they're going to walk back into a ton of red vision. Red team drops 3 early wards onto that camp. They see everything that's happening here. And now they suddenly know where they're going. Oh, but wait. The Ezreal, he's coming in. They warded the pit. He sees this, but little does he know he's standing on a ward. Shareworks sees him coming in, and there's going to be a volley immediately. Ezreal sees this. He's going to be poked out by the Ashe. He knows that he was spotted on his way in. But there we go. The Elise commits a super early smite onto that first camp. That is something that junglers do not do. Perhaps the Elise was scared that the Ezreal might go for a Hail Mary steal across the wall. Losing that camp would be catastrophic. Using your smite on the camp would be bad. But at least you have the camp. But generally, junglers do not smite that first camp. You'll be down a smite for the rest of your jungle clear. Well, when you really need it, and it might get a little bit rough. But regardless... Oh, hold on. The scoreboard. I said I don't have to organize one, but the other one I still have to. Oh, but the Scion, he's actually losing a pretty early trade here compared to the Nautilus. The Nautilus does have Corrupting Potion. It's going to make his trades hurt a lot more. You can see here, he's actually bullying the Scion out a little bit. He's first to level 2. The Scion cannot stay here. He needs to farm his wave at a much safer distance away. Now 2 minutes and 40 seconds in. It's still a dead even gaming very early on. There's no cheesy early kills. There's no ambush. There's no first blood out of nowhere. This is what we call a clean start to a game, where the game hasn't devolved into some sort of early on 5v5 fight. Now both teams are just going to look to farm it out here. No team has really climbed out to an early edge. Both teams tick to 4.3k total gold income simultaneously. Just matching each other's paces almost to the dot. And so far top lane, we're gonna have a tied CS game between Nautilus and Sion. They're definitely two very terrifying tanks, but they also serve very different purposes. Sion's purpose is to... oh, that stutter. The Sion's purpose is to serve as an engage. Oh, beautiful death sentence. The long range hooks lands on the Ezreal. He's gonna have to go back, but the damage is landing in, and first blood goes over to Shareworks. A beautiful hook coming out from the Thresh. The Braum needs to try to get up, but he might not be able to. Double kill going over to Team Shareworks. Such a beautiful hook very early on, getting themselves out to an amazing start. But meanwhile, in their own jungle, the Graves is coming in for an aggressive trade, but the belly slam from the Greg is going to dissuade him. He gets taunted up, he gets ignited, a little bit more damage will finish him, but they cannot find it. He will make it out safe and sound. The last tip of Ignite does not kill him off. Cloud Drake is spawning in just less than a minute, but neither team is currently in position to take it. But Shareworks, oh man, skyrocketing to such an early lead. That was an amazing 2v2 double kill. It is not something you see often. Usually in 2v2 lanes, it is very quiet until somebody intervenes. It's not common at all for a single hook to just cascade into a double kill. It was such a beautiful pick. Now 800 gold ahead, just off those two kills, really. And you see the Ezreal player, he goes back and he picks up the call. It has very little combat powers, but what it does is you keep it in your inventory and it gives you supplementary income. So you're essentially saying, I like to play the lane a bit slower, I like to farm up, and then I'll get more money. Way more money than if I did the strategy normally. He does sacrifice some immediate fighting power to do so, which is a smart play when you've just been double killed and you think you can still contain the damage. It is noteworthy that both of those kills did go over to the support, which definitely isn't the best receiver of the gold, but it will do. You'd rather take the 2 kills than 0. The most ideal case is, of course, if Ashe got that double kill, then that lane might be a totally different story already. And you can see, after that Graves top lane killing off the Nautilus, the gold lead is dead even again. Despite the first blood, despite yet another kill, it's once again dead even lead. So the first kill gold is 600 gold. But that difference has already been fully made up just by Team Pason slightly farming better than Team Shareworks at this moment in time. Particularly the mid lane has a particularly large CS differential. It's 37 CS on the Galio to 17 on the Gragas. And now top lane going for another aggressive trade with the Sion. He's running out of resources. His health half. His mana almost empty. He needs to try to get out. The Nautilus has the health to Broados him, not to mention a huge minion wave ready to help him fight. It's going to be difficult for the Sion to engage onto this. The Sion is actually building armor first, which is something that I don't necessarily agree with. If you look at Team Shareworks, they are a very ability power heavy team. 4 out of their 5 members output damage through magic damage, so getting armor doesn't really make sense to me in this situation. The Graves, he's gonna dash in, but he gets hooked up and flayed back. Now he needs to go on the retreat. He's going in on the Ashe, but the damage is split. The focus is not there. Pason cannot find a kill here. The Graves has to walk out. Luckily, he did not burn any summoner spells, which is the critical part, but he did take such a large chunk of damage. Braum going for aggressive trade at the top laner. He's roamed all the way mid. Allows the jungler. The 3-man lockdown is there. The Galio gets locked down and killed off. And Team Shareworks, once again, they get another one on the board. Just a beautiful performance from them in this early game. And now it's up to Team Pason to respawn. And so far, I must say, Team Shareworks has played the map much better than Team Pason here. 7.5 minutes in, that means the first set of buffs will be respawning, and more importantly, 30 seconds from now, Rift Herald will be a thing on the map. It is such an important objective here to secure early map control and often snowball that into a definite win. But that also requires both sides of the map to start looking towards their top side, which right now, still locked in the stalemate, just trading blows back and forth. Neither side is really giving an inch. You drive a minion wave to me, I'll drive a minion wave to you. Scion did go for Mercurial Treads first. That's going to get him a lot of tenacity and a lot of magic resistance here to compete with this lane. But now bot lane, for Shareworks, they're going to go ahead and take away the plate. And it is Team Pason's bot lane left kind of reeling. The Ezreal still keeping up in farm, but they do need to make something happen here. It is certainly up to them to pull this lane back. The Ezreal right now is by no means weak. He does have only a call and a tier, neither of which are particularly stellar combat abilities or combat items to be having. But he is still farming the lane a little bit better than the Ashe despite the deficit. So it is definitely still within Team Pason's hands to pull this game back. Scion is going for another aggressive trade. It is interesting to me because both Scion and Nautilus, despite being tanky laners here, don't necessarily have the lowest mana cost. So every time I look top, I just see either one or both players just completely out of mana. It's a very funny sight to see. Oh, the Gragas, the belly thrust, whoa, the miss! But there is the Justice Punch getting interrupted as well. The Thresh is here for the assist. The Death Sentence will not connect. The Galley will make it out safe and sound. Actually, not even losing that much aside from a flash, but he's still very healthy to stay in the lane. He does not need to go anywhere. Oh, but the Thresh, he has to be careful. On his way back, he's going to be caught out by the Graves, who makes short work of him. And because he got 2 kills here, that's going to be a shutdown. The Graves pick up a monumental amount of change for himself. And he's now so far ahead of Elise off the back of that 1 shutdown kill. It is almost 10 minutes into the game, and right now Red Team, they're making the first play for a global objective. Team Pason secures the Cloud Drake. Ashe will commit her ultimate, but will not find anything. She will stun the Graves after the fact. No miracle steal possible with the arrow splash damage. 10 minutes out, Graves is coming in for another aggressive fight. Onto the Gragas! Oh my god, that evisceration! Just deleting Gragas off the map. A beautiful kill. Very confident in his damage output to go for that play, and just makes it out like a bandit. And now Pason, I will say, despite the gold lead being equal, the momentum is now favoring them. However, we have seen Team Shareworks, they're capable of making very smart, very early, aggressive map plays. But it's not up to them to make more. As Team Pason is catching up, they need to once again look to widen that gap. This is very much a team that want to win as fast as possible. They do not want the Red Team here to scale up. They don't want the Graves to hit late game. They don't want the Scion to hit late game. They don't want the Ezreal, of all people, to hit late game. And there it is. Graves finds his 4th kill. The Nautilus extends far too far. And the Thresh, he might have gone in too aggressively. Flash forward from the Elise, but the Cocoon will not land. A long distance. Mystic Shot will connect onto the Thresh. But the Ashe, she's coming in. She finishes off the AD carry, flashing her Master Emote on the side out, on the way out. Showing that she does indeed know how to play the champion. And she's flaunting it in style. Ezreal gets a kill to himself, but he does die in the process. 24 stacks left on the call until it can pay off with a large injection of gold. Now Team Shareworks, they're pounding at the gates, but right now Pason has secured more objectives. They took the first dragon, and now they've taken the Rift Herald. They can definitely use it to break the game wide open early on in the game. Wait, that sentence sucked. That sentence semantically sucks. A Red Team, they may have overstayed a little bit. Ashe is low on health, low on mana. If Red Team so desires, they could chase her down, but right now they're just more concerned with mopping up the remainder of the minions under their own tower. The Sweeper does come out here from the Braum. He's gonna clear out some River Vision to set it up. And Pason so far warming their way up to a very slight lead over Team Shareworks. There it is, the Nautilus hook. The trades are coming in. One has an anchor, one has an axe, and they're just slapping each other with it. But neither side is going down. They're both so absurdly tanky, but Nautilus, he's actually shot up to a very respectable CS lead. CS wins games, and he's definitely winning that lane, but it's mostly being offset by their mid lane, actually. It's a very interesting mirror situation. It's almost exactly tied in CS, just mirrored. The Herald does get deployed, and that's going to be 3 plays down instantly. Blue team does dispel the threat before it gets out of hand, but that will even up the third play count quite a bit here for Pason's bot lane. And with that, they jumped ahead to a 1,000 gold lead. And because Shareworks have been sitting kind of idle for the past few minutes, Pason is more than happy to capitalize off this window. And there's an aggressive trade coming down from the Gragas, but both sides are out of mana. Seems like that's a common theme in this game. They're just going to leave. Oh, there it is. The Graves is coming in for another trade. The end of the line does chunk out quite a bit of health on the Elise. The box gets committed by the Thresh, and the long distance arrow will not find the mark. But the Galio has been stranded. He will be taken down. Nautilus has walked down from all the way top lane, and the teamfight might be breaking out here. But this is a 3v5. Pason has very little chances of winning this one, and they know it. Double kill here for the Elise and the Ashe. The slow arrows are coming down onto the Ezreal. He needs to try to get out. The arrows, the Mystic Shot return. The damage lands on the Ashe. But very interestingly, the Ashe first item's Infinity Edge? Oh, that is certainly not a common build. The standard build for Ashe is going to be Blade of the Ruined King. She has a very good reason for not building Eye Edge. Infinity Edge increases your critical damage, but Ashe as the champion doesn't do bonus damage on critical strikes. It is off that fact that Infinity Edge is actually a very inefficient item on Ashe to buy, because crit ADCs will pick up that item, because once you hit 100% crit, you will do that much more damage thanks to Infinity Edge amplifying your critical damage. But Ashe specifically cannot do bonus damage on critical strikes. Instead, it will just amplify the amount of slow she gets from her auto attacks. So it is very interesting that the Ashe will spend such a huge chunk of gold on an item that will barely increase her damage output. It doesn't really matter here, as Elise, flexing her early game muscles, gonna get yet another kill onto the Braum. 4-0-1. She is certainly very strong, but the Graves is actually matching her pace respectably well. They're tied in kills, but Graves has over 30 CS to make up for that 1 assist. He is definitely the richer player at this stage, but Shareworks gonna immediately respond by taking away the Mountain Drake. Yet, despite everything that's happened, the gold lead refuses to smile towards Shareworks, still favoring Team Pason even after everything that has happened. It is like a stone, and in fact, instead of budging, it's going the other way. Pason somehow got richer of losing those fights. It just that's a symptomatic of the plays from Shareworks, despite being really good map rotations, not having any immediate impact into the game. And there it is, the Thresh. He might have overstepped. This is now 4 members down in Pason's bottom lane, and they are now fully poised to kill everybody. The Ashe is stunned up in place as well. That is going to be 2 bodies on the ground, but meanwhile in the top lane, the Sion, he's going to charge, but right into a Nautilus's face. He has nowhere to go. The Elise going to take her 5th kill of the game. And the Sion, he's angry, he wants to punch, but he's been cocooned up. However, the price is first turret. And you know what I say, Pason, they hold on to their gold lead. And in fact, they just widened it a little bit again. That last series of plays does greatly favor Team Pason above Team Shareworks. They get way more out of it, and no, that is just insult to injury. Not only do they take first tower, they get 2! That is almost unheard of, to get 2 towers off 1 push in the bottom lane without a herald. The Shareworks did not assign anybody to cover the hole left in bottom lane, and Pason more than capitalizes. The response is going to be in the top lane here. Red team loses their tier 1 turret to the Nautilus. 40 CS ahead now. He is quite a bit more tanky than the Sion as well. The only other problem they have to contend with is that their team is so incredibly AP oriented. It's a lot of magic damage. So really, as a tank here on Pason, all you have to do is just stack magic resist and you'll be fine. The Ashe will not chip you that much come the late game. You could ignore her essentially with just one armor item. Ocean Drake is going to be spawning in 2.5 minutes, but that is a very long time away from now. The call for Pason now, they might just go ahead and take away a second Herald, and off the back of this, they can go ahead and kill even more towers. Towers are definitely the easiest and best way to get close into an enemy base, and once you get into the base, it is game over. 8 to 7, the Ashe Arrow does fly in, it does nail onto the Galio, the teamfight breaks out here, but Shareworks is so incredibly undermanned that they just draw bodies before the fight even begins. It's going to be a 1-for-0, and then they call the retreat. But Pason, they smell blood in the water. They're going out for this. The Herald is already dead. They're going to try to start this siege. Nobody is bot lane. There's no side lane pressure to have to contend with. And right now, this is just going to be a straight up 5-for-5 push. Nautilus is lagging behind. The Cocoon will whip. The Elise is too low to start fighting. I think Shareworks have to give this tower up. They can't stay here. Pason does use the Herald to kill that tower with very little contest. And once again, I sound like a broken record, but they get more ahead in game. But oh wait, the Nautilus finds a beautiful dredge line onto the Ezreal. He's being controlled. The caster burst is out there. He kill off the AD carry, and now the team fight breaks out. The jungler is not there. It's just a bunch of tanks. The tanks can't do damage, and the Shareworks team, they're pulling it back. They finally get a good team fight for themselves, and they kill off 3 members for nothing. That is how you catch people on the retreat, and they just did it beautifully. 19 minutes in, they find that winning fight. And so far, Elise and Graves, the only 2 players, both are junglers, unkilled in this game. And based on how momentous these moments are and how both teams are playing for so much momentum, it does seem to me like the first team to lose their jungler is going to be the first team on perhaps an unrecoverable deficit. And we might get our answer to that very soon, as Dragon is just 30 seconds away from spawning. What is going to be both teams' call? All 10 players have respawned, and they're more or less back in the lane. Ezreal has already finished his mana. Such a scarily fast completion time. What's a completed call as well? And the Ashe, she's worked her way up to Infinity Edge and Runes, but she doesn't have lifesteal, and she doesn't have tankiness, and she's just going to be taken down. The Elise is going to be next on the chopping block, not going to make it to the Lantern in time. Going to be shut down here by the Graves, and let's see if my prophecy is true. Will Shareworks now be put on an unrecoverable deficit thanks to losing that momentum? Pason is going to respond by taking away the Ocean Drake for themselves. That is one objective. And now they're going to be grouping up and once again running down. They do understand their team strengths very well. They work best in straight up team fights with all 5 members thanks to their extremely tanky frontline. And now it seems like they're starting it? They're just gonna go Baron at 21 minutes. They're daring Shareworks to come into the pit. They don't have a lease, they don't have a smite to try to secure this away. They might need to funnel into the pit, and that is a definite death sentence. The hook does come out onto the Galio. But Sion sounds the alarm. He's charging in. The fight is coming down, but the Nautilus is cutting off the back line. He's just going to be turned on by all the attention. The damage is landing. He might not be able to make it out. So many flashes coming down. The Elise is going to try to find one in the back. She does kill off the Braum, but she gets locked up by the Galio. However, she bursts him down fast enough. The back line for Shareworks is falling though, and the Elise might just be the last survivor. Collateral damage will now find the kill. And that is going to be a 4-for-2 team fight. Oh, maybe 4-for-5. The last Mystic Shot doesn't find it. Sion scouts out the Elise the Thresh. Gives her a way out. Wait, he didn't die in that fight, did he? There might be a 3-for-2. But however, they have failed in their mission. They don't get the Scuttle. They don't get control on the Baron. And now, Pason, they're just right back to the Baron. And if they secure this Baron, it might be a landslide victory for them from that point on. Despite how close the game seems now, I can certainly tell you the momentum is only on red side and nowhere else. Red team does take away Baron Nashor here. The Hawkshot comes in a little bit too late to do anything with it. And now full reset comes out. The Graves here is so fed. He is definitely the player of the game today. 8-0-4, unkilled, the only unkilled player left in the game. And he's done a very good job of matching Elise's early jungling pace. Now Shareworks, they're starting a counter push here. Seems like they will just take a tower, but now they have to fall back. And now Pason with Baron, they can start their own retaliation push. And it's gonna be up to Shareworks to respawn. Seems like their call is gonna go topside. They want to siege those towers down. A long distance ward going to spot out the Elise's movements. We are going to be heading into a very slow push, but the Ezreal and the Graves, they're both their damage dealers, they're not with the rest of the team. This might turn disastrous if a fight is engaged now, and the Elise might know as she's coming in. The dredge line comes in as well to stall the fight. Red team is fighting under a tower. That is not always the best idea. The unstoppable charge gets interrupted by the spider, and she has nowhere to go. She'll be taken down by the Ezreal, freshly arriving onto the scene. The Nautilus is going to be next to go. Where is the rest of Shareworks? They are just not in position to do anything. Thresh and Ashe are just now running up the lane, but they will find only corpses on the ground. Lantern gonna come out from the Thresh. He wants to make a play here happen. Can they connect a hook onto the Graves? The answer is yes, through the collateral damage. But do they put down enough damage to kill him off? This Graves does so much damage. He just kills the AD carry straight up. The cast not to do anything either. They can't kill him. They don't have the damage. The Dragons can't finish it. And the Graves, despite being caught, turns it around for a beautiful 3-0 with the Galio assist coming in to save his life. A beautiful hero's entrance by the Galio and an amazing turnaround. Graves did excellent threat assessment there. He identified that there was only really one player that can actually kill him, and he takes him out first, killing off the Ashe before anybody else. Excellent threat assessment and target selection, and that is going to win him a very flashy 3 versus 1 or versus 2 near the tail end victory. And now Shareworks base, they've been broken wide open. 2 inhibitors have already fallen, and the Justice Punch, the everything is coming down. The Ashe is also dead on the ground, having just respawned. Pason, they could go back, but they have no reason to. They can just end the game off this one push, and they're still going forward. They're doing it. Can Team Shareworks really contest this? The answer is, of course, no. The Nexus is falling. There's so many minions, and that is going to be the end of the game. GG is called, and Pason wins game number 2 against Shareworks. A beautiful performance by all teams involved. Props to Shareworks, honestly. Their early game was spectacular. I was very impressed with how well they played the early phases of the game. But Pason, they had the superior mid or late game, and they did take it out. And the Graves, a monstrous performance here, 12-0-6. The damage graph here, I believe, speaks for itself. It is very much Ashe damage against the Graves. And oh boy, did he shine this game.